And we are live. Hello. We have Osinachi and Sam from Async. Hey guys.
Hey,
Hey,
Nicole.
How are you both?
I'm good. I'm good.
Very
Doing
happy
good.
to have you. Very excited for this conversation.
I'm excited for this. I've been dozing off for most of the day, so it's going to liven me up.
oh my God. What time is it over there right now?
Well, it's 4 p.m. I
Oh,
had a long
nice.
drive yesterday. If you know about Lagos, you know the traffic is really legendary. So my body feels kind of broken down, but I'm good.
Nice. Awesome.
Cool. Amazing. Well, I think, it would be nice to actually start from the very beginning, and, work our way through there. So I'd love to know, when the journey kind of into crypto art started for you. And yeah, let's start from there.
The journey started around in 2017 when I discovered through a Google alert there was something about art on the blockchain, and I was interested as a digital artist because I've been looking for opportunities as a digital artist in the traditional art space, but nothing was forthcoming. So I decided to try this art on the blockchain thing. I reached out to the guys at Rare Arts, and through them, I minted my first few PCs. 2018 went on to exhibit at Ethereal conference, and from there, I discovered other platforms, right? From Portion to Super Rare, AsyncArt, and so on. The journey's been amazing.
And rare, I've heard of rare digital art a couple of times before, because it was like one of the first, if not the first, like platform for digital art, right?
Yeah, probably the first, but it was the first for me where I first got onboarded and minted my first few pieces.
And what, like how was the experience? Like how was the journey? Tell us about that a bit.
Yeah, honestly, I wasn't really taking it seriously because, first of all, I wanted to show my work to a larger audience beyond Instagram, and I felt okay. This affords me the the chance to do that, and also affords me the chance to have my work sold. Right, so I was super excited for Ethereal conference because I think it's the first ever exhibition I ever took part in. So when the whole thing was starting out, there wasn't sales, there wasn't much sales, right? It was just like a few dollars, if anything. But then I was excited to actually learn something new, which is the blockchain. It was my first introduction to the blockchain and cryptocurrency as we know it. And it was really a great experience starting out, to learn.
Amazing.
Osinachi, my first introduction to you, actually my first introduction to like crypto art and NFTs was through your work. Um,
Hmm.
it was actually my brother Jake like showed me the I think he owns the Sixth Man or the Seventh Man. Um,
Okay.
and he was like the first person that like sort of showed me how everything sort of works and told me a little bit about your story. I think like can we like actually back up like a couple of years also and like sort of learn about your background? Like, are you trained artist? Has your medium always been digital art? Because I think that there's something there as well.
Yeah, my medium has always been digital art. I've always used Microsoft Word for my art. As a young kid growing up, I grew up in Aba, that's in southeastern Nigeria. And when we had this period that we had, what is it called? Cyber cafes everywhere. And people were going to use the internet. Computers weren't in every home. I was very much interested in computer science as a subject, which was exciting in secondary school, then in junior secondary. In fact, they weren't teaching computer science in junior secondary. It was for senior secondary, but I was in junior secondary. I was very much interested. And my father, being someone who is interested in new technologies, he actually got a hold of this knowledge of the internet and started going to cyber cafes. I wanted to join him. I told him. He took me along one of these days and opened my first email for me and just showed me around. He was really busy, but then I decided to go on my own and try out things. And at that period, I was very much a reader, which meant I was also trying to write. And trying to write, I wanted to find out about opportunities for writers or budding writers like myself. And I went looking for literary magazines online, and they would demand that you send your work in Microsoft Word, right? And this meant typing the manuscripts in Microsoft Word and sending out to them. Naturally, I got bored occasionally typing these manuscripts, and I had to start exploring other things in Microsoft Word, which was the drawing tools and all that. I started with creating popular logos. And from there, I felt I could do something more with this. It moved from creating popular logos to trying to create abstract works when I entered the university. And it wasn't until I left the university that I realized that this was a skill that I needed to work on and take seriously. That realization came after I finished my National Youth Service Corps, which was a mandatory 1 year service for university leavers here. You get sent from one part of the country to another part of the country to work for 1 year and sort of contribute to the development over there. And in so doing, learn new cultures and all that. So nearing the end of this service year, it was like, what am I going to do with my time after this? Because jobs aren't really forthcoming, right? And I needed to hone my skills. And this is what I held on to, aside from my certificates from the university. And leaving that service, I went straight to the University of Nigeria, where I got a job as an academic librarian immediately and started working. Working on weekdays and making art on weekends, Saturdays and Sundays. That was basically the whole thing for me. And I, from there, honed my craft, challenged myself using Microsoft Word. And that is the result, what we are seeing now as my current style, the work through the years before the blockchain came.
So hold on, I just want to like give particular emphasis on the fact that like you made art on like Microsoft Word.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I still do.
This is ridiculous. I mean, it's like, it's amazing, right? Like, because Microsoft Word, you're creating art out of something that is not designed to be made art out of, right? It's a literary device. And so like totally makes sense, like this transition. And I'm sorry to put you on the spot. And if you don't have any of these like images or anything like this, like I'd love to see if we like, do you have any of your early Microsoft Word stuff? Like, and can you like, because I can't even contextualize, like I don't even understand how you would do the art on Microsoft Word in the first place. Like, is there a way that you can like show us that? Because I'm like amazed right now.
Well, basically, it's the drawing tools that I use. And then I have my secret sauce, right? That make up the whole thing. So it's basically about learning what you can do on Microsoft Word and pushing, the envelope and just putting in the work. Actually, it's very easy for me now to do in my own style, create on Microsoft Word, because I've been doing that over the years.
That's crazy. Like when you said Microsoft Word, I thought, okay, no, like I haven't heard correctly. And then you repeated it, and it's like, okay, wow.
Everything I've made on Microsoft Word.
I don't even know like what that looks like. Like Osinachi, you don't have to share the secret sauce, but like is it a conglomeration of typing out certain things, or is
No,
it
no,
like
no, no.
putting in
The
images?
text is not involved. It's more
Got it.
like drawing,
Shapes.
and then adding
Ah, okay.
colors, drawing the shapes and adding colors and adding the secret sauce.
Nice.
I love the secret sauce. And
Yeah.
something that is super interesting as well is like, obviously, your background and like how the entry into like blockchain and crypto art like was, at the time, especially like, was it, something that it was completely like new within, your country, and how did you approach that? Like, how was that?
Cryptocurrencies weren't new as at 2017, but it wasn't really popular. People, especially young people, were starting to get to know about cryptocurrency. Bitcoin being the main one. But then I didn't take interest naturally. Normally, I didn't take interest because um, I cared more about the art, but it turned out that in the journey in the art world, I had to infuse cryptocurrency. I had to infuse the blockchain. So it wasn't really popular. I remember that back then it was difficult to actually find a way to buy Ether, right? Except for early exchanges like Luno, where I often did my transactions. So I just had to like go buy some Ether for to pay as to use for gas fees and so on, and that was it. I didn't really spend so much buying Ether, right? Compared to now when the price of Ether has actually gone up.
And back at the time when you started, yesterday I was having a conversation with Robness, and like, he was telling me all about like the early days and stuff. Like, what, like, how was the community? Like, what was the vibe there? The artists. I'm guessing like many. There wasn't that many artists around. So yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
We didn't have many collectors, so it was like artists supporting artists. So you'd see artists collecting the work of other artists, um, not for so much in terms of dollars, but it meant really a lot because for someone to appreciate your work enough to go ahead and buy it, and that was it basically. And there was this thing with innovation, which was happening through different platforms. Each platform was trying to find a way to be unique on their own and to promote artists and to promote crypto art generally. So it was basically artists supporting artists.
That's crazy.
That's amazing. And we hear a lot of that nowadays, especially musicians and artists during coronavirus that have suffered because you can't do live performances or you can't do live shows or anything like that, and you have like a whole lot of support coming in from all sorts of different sources. But it's actually very encouraging to hear that the support was happening even when there wasn't a crisis, and the support was happening even when, when the space was nascent, even more so than now. Really, really cool to see, and that fundamental has built us to where we are now. And some would say that fundamental is like where we are now is still really early, but that's just like really, really cool and amazing to hear that it was so supportive from the beginning.
Yeah, visionaries like Jason Bailey of Art Norm really took this thing, believed in crypto art before it became a big thing. So the work he also did in terms of talking about the various artworks in the space, the various artists in the space, was also really important to the growth we're seeing now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think, in every conversation that I have, there is a reference to Jason and the work that he did, because it was really visionary, and he really brought the idea of like crypto artists in a way to a normal, the normal kind of population. But I want to go back to the artist supporting artists, because I think that's probably one of the biggest, real like revolutions of like crypto art, that there was this real support between artists, and in some ways or form, we still see it now on like platforms, for example, like Nft Nyc, which maybe are more accessible, and gas fees are not that high. Like, tell us a little bit about how, that kind of, shifted into collectors coming into the space, and, what it is now, let's say.
Yeah, I didn't take Twitter seriously until I think the little attention started coming into crypto art, right? And then I had to go back to my Twitter to get into the community and all that. But what I noticed was that the pandemic helped in a lot of ways to bring attention to what we are seeing now, in the sense that we had cases where across the world physical galleries were closed, and I think art lovers wanted to like find a way to connect with art also outside of physical galleries. And this was what encouraged a lot of them to go out there on the internet and actually find out about crypto art. And when it was around late 2019, when we started seeing what you might regard then as crazy money coming into crypto art. I mean, crazy then, not compared to the crazy now, because it's much more bigger. Um, and it was a particular collector, Whale Shark, who sort of brought a lot of attention in terms of monetary value to various artists and artworks in themselves. So Whale Shark came in and splashed and splashed and splashed, collected and collected. And this, I believe, helped in so many ways to encourage collectors to actually come in and take this seriously. So I would say like he was the first biggest collector in the space, who also encouraged through what he was doing, encouraged other big collectors to come in and actually start collecting artworks in the space.
That's amazing, and really really cool to hear the progression of how it all started, going to all the way here. And so I think this is like a really great segue to start talking about your artworks and to start talking about some of like your early stuff. It's very clear to me that your artworks have a very particular genre or style per se, and it definitely, like, let's just talk high level really quickly, because you do have reoccurring motives and themes within your artwork, and I just love to know a little bit more. I think Nicole as well, just where that comes from, and sort of what you're trying, like what statement you're trying to make in sort of doing this style.
Yeah, my personal experiences largely form what I interrogate through my art. And I don't know if that's the same for every artist, but for me, I tend to look back at what I was seeing around me growing up, what I am seeing around me right now, and what I think the future can be in a positive way for the environment where I find myself right now. And growing up, I used to see things like toxic masculinity. Even before I got to know about the phrase toxic masculinity, I knew that this thing that was being exhibited by these men wasn't right at all, because it was about dehumanizing women. It was about talking down on women. It was about I am the head of the house and nobody can say any other thing opposed to what I am saying. It was experiences like this that actually made me think to myself, is this the way it's supposed to be? Which of course not supposed to, it's not the way it's supposed to be, because in doing that, the men are sort of causing harm to the women. And I've always been an empathetic person from the start. I think I got that from my mother. So it made me sort of imagine what the world or my environment would be like when there is absence of toxic masculinity, which affects groups like LGBTQ groups around in Nigeria, in Africa as a whole. Because from there, you would see that these guys that regard themselves as the real men would think that an effeminate man is not a real man, would think that a man who is a member of the LGBTQ community is not a real man, because a real man would go for a woman. And it's actually these things that make me imagine a man who is comfortable in a dress, very much comfortable to wear a dress, to wear earrings. And honestly, these are things that have been there in the African culture before the coming of the white man in Africa. We have cultures where men even wear earrings, where men wear what you would regard as dresses, or dresses you would regard as, in quotes, dresses meant for females. But then I think that Christianity did a lot in terms of damaging the psyche of the average African, and the imported religion as a whole, not just Christianity, where the Bible says, the Quran says, the Quran says, and then we tend to forget, you know. Right now, as it is, the average African parent, the boomer parent, would regard me as an irresponsible person just by seeing that I wear dreads, right? What colonialism taught them was that you had to wear a low-cut sort of hair. Now that means you're responsible. That means you would be allowed to work in the civil service, right? That means you'd be allowed to work in the bank. That means you can work as a lawyer. Now, these are occupations or careers that are regarded as big down here, not necessarily being an artist or a recording artist or whatever. And so they tend to forget that the white man who gave them this mentality actually was wearing his own hair however he wanted while heading the civil service during the colonial period, but then would tell the black man to go cut your hair, you know, because you have to look smart. And this meant that Africans forgot that their ancestors used to wear different kinds of hairstyles, beautiful hairstyles, you know. And so in my work, I try to imagine where people allow others to be as they are without trying to change them or tell them how they should be. So long as you are being yourself, your authentic self, and you're not hurting any other person, I feel you can go ahead and be yourself, whatever that means, being yourself. I hope I didn't just ramble on and on, but
No, I think
No.
what you just said is so powerful in so many ways, to be honest. And yeah, it's really really good to hear you speak about it. I think, you know, probably like I was looking at some of, you know, your like one of your two pieces that you have on async, and one of them, which I think, you know, now it makes even more sense, is this one: choose the man you will become, which I think is pretty much, you know, what you were trying to describe. Do you want to maybe like dig a bit deeper into this and yeah, talk about this as well?
yeah, I made this work a long time ago. I think it was in 2019.
19, yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't mint it until 2020, I think, right? And when the work came out, I didn't know that it would be as symbolic as it
Mm.
became, you know, in the space. Choose the man you will become was it's just about being a good person, being a good man, right? Don't do things that would hurt the women just because you want to prove you're a man. When you go into the barber shop where you have just men, mostly the talk is around women they've slept with, women they've abused probably, and they say it in such a way that they are. It sort of makes them more of a man, you know, that they've slept with this woman, slept with this woman, done this to this woman and this woman, and it sort of becomes a bragging right to most of these men. And as a child, I would go to the barbering salon and just sit and observe, because I wanted to cut my hair, of course, and observe. And you'd hear these older men talk about girls who are just past, you know, girls who are barely teenagers, and talking about what these girls are doing. Also talking about even girls or women who are mature, talking about what they are doing, how they are dressed, and how they are disrespectful to men because they don't greet the men, and just so many things. And at the end of the day, it came down to denigrating the women and looking down on the women. So it inspired this piece, making reference to the barber shop, posters you see in the barber shop, and just telling men to choose the man you will become, which is, of course, be a better man. Amongst all of these men in this poster, you don't actually know the type of men they are until you meet them. But then when you meet them, you can decide to be that kind of man they are, or to be something different, you know, in that way. And I think I can say now it's exclusive information, but it's going out before December of this year. I'll have Choose the Man You Will Become to come out. Something similar to this, but then, you know, a little tweak.
That's awesome. And so let's dig a little deeper into this. Let's go further. This is so. I think this piece, in and of itself, is so powerful because there's so much. You know, like when you contextualize it the way that you are for us, it just makes total sense. It's like one of these things where, you know, it just like sort of like once you understand the outside components of the cultural aspects of everything, like the art just kind of like, oh, that totally makes sense. And
Yeah.
this is one of those pieces where it just like flips, like the switch flips, and then you understand like sort of what we're talking about. But let's talk about sort of the layers. You have, I think, 3 different ways that you can display the men, right? There's the way that is shown, but there's also, you can change the color of their hair.
Yeah.
And also like the lip color is very like vibrant, right? Also, and I, you know, you can sort of tell us about that a little bit more if you like. But to me, that is a total embodiment of sort of like this idea that you've been talking about like the comfort and the okayness and the acceptance of having more you know, openness and not so much like toxic masculinity per se. But yeah, let's talk about the layers a little bit.
Yeah, it's there are 3 states for each man, and that is the change in hair color and the silhouette. And when George Floyd died tragically, some of these collectors decided to switch to the silhouette in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement, which even made the work more symbolic. You know, I think some of them are still in silhouette, you know, when you look at the masters. Well, for the lips, I like to work on my characters' lips like this, because most of my characters actually are men. And this is me showing the feminine side of a man, because it's expected that it is the woman who wears the lipstick and who has the beautiful lips, you know, vibrant lips like this. So it's sort of showing the feminine side of these men, and to also point out to the fact that a beautiful man is still a man, right, in every sense of the word.
It's very interesting to me because it's like with this, and you know, the fact that also obviously like you can change the layers, so obviously you can also decide how your man looks like. You're really kind of pushing the boundaries of what is a man like and how do they look like, and it can be
Yeah.
different for everyone depending on their identity and what they feel like. So yeah, it's a really really powerful piece, and obviously, as Sam said, to have that context and that um, background is incredible.
I think one other thing to note here is that we're talking about, like, you obviously intentioned this to be like different pictures of haircuts, right?
Yeah.
At a barber shop, right? And yet, like, all the haircuts look the same in a certain way, right? Like the head has like short hair mostly, right? And that's sort of like what you're talking about, like this Christian aspect of, like, you cut your hair and you leave it short in order to work at things that are considered like very glamorous and big jobs. But the thing that the twist that you put it on there is the fact that their hair color can change and it can also be vibrant, right? And that's
exactly.
like it's amazing to me that it's just like such a subtle difference that makes it's a subtle difference that makes all the difference, right? When you take a look at the piece at large, at the master.
Hair dyeing is something that has become really popular here in Africa. Young people are sort of taking back, they're sort of kicking back in this way. I can say that it's a way of saying they can be however they want to be, right? So where parents are like, no, you can't dye your hair in my house, the young person still goes ahead to dye their hair whatever color they want. And for them, it's a way of showing their identity. It's a way of showing their removal from that mentality that most African parents have, or most boomers have.
I'd also like to, ask you a little bit around, this context and, the art that you do. Like, um, how has this been perceived where, you're currently at? Like, what is the idea behind, art in general and digital art and crypto art even more so? Have you found that like there's, a wider audience within Africa, Nigeria? Like how is that?
Well, right now, the popularity of crypto art or NFTs is actually growing here, just as it is across the world. And not many collectors from Africa are interested in this right now. Although I would say there are some who might have interest to enter into the space, because I think a few months back I saw that a South African collector enter the NFT space. I mean, this is someone who has been collecting traditional art, and then he enters the space and he's very much interested in African art and is ready to pay for African art and collect African art. So I think we're going to be seeing more African collectors. But right here, art institutions like galleries and the rest, they have a lot of job to do in terms of educating collectors and also artists, because some artists are not so sure about entering the crypto art space.
Yeah, my question was, like the next question was exactly that. Like, what about kind of, I guess the artist generation, maybe even, the younger generation, like you talked about kids trying to, let's say, break the rules per se, and maybe, coloring their hair and trying to kind of go different paths. Like, is it something potentially like the exposure to crypto art might also, help um these kind of like conversations as well, to like, how is the younger generation like seeing it, if it's seeing it at all?
Yeah, we have a number of African artists, Nigerian artists particularly, who are entering the space, and a lot are planning to enter, right? Where some of them are holding back from what I learned because of the thing with cryptocurrency and how our central bank here is taking the whole thing, there's a ban on banks transacting cryptocurrencies. And when you hear this sort of thing, you don't want to get in trouble, right? As someone who lives in Nigeria, or as a young person in Nigeria. But then the ban doesn't say you can't hold cryptocurrency. It doesn't say you can't do your cryptocurrency thing, whatever you want to do with cryptocurrency. It just says the banks can't process the payments in terms of buying or selling cryptocurrency. So the thing is in convincing them that there is nothing wrong when you get involved in cryptocurrency. And that is actually the baseline of the whole Cryptoart thing. You have to come in and you have to earn in cryptocurrency and so on. But a lot of them are coming around, right? They're mostly on open platforms. This is because most of them are just coming in right now when the NFT boom is happening. And that means they have to contend with a lot of applications that created platforms are receiving, right? So I hope that by the time these created platforms sieve through the applications they are receiving, that a number of these African and Nigerian artists are actually going to be on curated platforms, as opposed to most of them, almost all of them, being on open platforms.
Absolutely, that's so important.
Osinachi, can you talk a little bit about with this particular piece before we move on to the next one? Was this conceptualized specifically for the Async platform? Did you think about it in this way beforehand, or had you created the artwork and sort of adapted it to the Async art programmability aspect afterwards?
The work was created even before AsyncArt emerged in the space. I just had to adapt it in terms of the hair color change and the silhouette thing, and that's it. Once I saw what I could do, what you could do on AsyncArt, I felt this was a perfect work to start with.
Do you think that the technology ultimately has like enhanced the message that you're trying to send to the collectors?
Exactly, like totally. It has actually enhanced it in so many ways. That's one of the beauties of AsyncArt, that you can make your work, and then through what you're able to do in terms of the dynamics of the work, you can like reinforce the message you're passing.
That's amazing. Thanks for saying that. Let's go to your other piece here, and would love for you to sort of lead us through that a little bit. Again, with just, as right when you look at it, you have this stark difference between dark colors and very vibrant ones as well. Would love for you to talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, My Body, My Crime. I conceived this piece following the whole hullabaloo about race and racism, especially in the US. So we had these cases where mostly Black men were targeted, Black people, in fact, were targeted by law enforcement and brutalized, and most times killed, in the process. And this made me think of racism across the world, in the sense that the Black body becomes an embodiment of crime in the eyes of some people. So when you see the Black body, when you see a Black male or a Black female, you're thinking this person is in this place to commit a crime. This person is up to no good. So I have to stand in their way. I have to oppress them or whatever. So you see the Black figure standing on a pedestal, which has different states. It has 4 states, which makes references to 4 different countries across the world. I did some research, and so many of the cases we're hearing in terms of racism were from these countries, the US, India, I think 2 other countries, I can't remember. So I decided to use the flags of these countries as the pedestal, where you have the Black body on this country. And the bandana the body is wearing makes reference to hip hop culture, which is what mostly the Black community is known for in the US. The tape is just a reference to to the body embodying crime. So this is a crime scene, do not cross. Also, another state for this tape is caution. So when you see a Black body, you have to be cautious, observe, and so on. So that's basically what the work is about. My body, my crime.
Wow. Let's look at the layers here, because you do have a couple of different things that you can do with these particular pieces. You can, change the background. You can change the pedestal. You could change the Black man. And with the background, you can change it to be sort of these different iterations, some more clear, less vibrant than others. You can take a look at, let's see, so the pedestal, we have the United States flag, but we also have the UK and China.
That's China, and then India. Yeah, that reminds me, when I made this work, there was this rampant racism in China, where Black people, especially Africans in China who were there for business, were being thrown out of their apartments, and it was really crazy, thrown into the streets and just being abused here and there in China.
Wow.
The same thing was happening in India, where mostly students, because most Africans go to India to study medicine and all that, where mostly students were being abused. We had a case where I think a Nigerian student was set ablaze, burnt alive in India.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, and on that note, you can, as the owner of the Black man, you can change the color.
The color, yeah.
Yeah. So in changing the color of the Black man, I thought of the US particularly. You will have the Republicans, which is red, and you have the Democrats, which is blue, and that informed the change in hue. You see that, aside from the silhouette.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And you also have, once again, the reoccurrence of like the really bright lips, and the bright sort of characteristics. Very interesting. Moving forward into the bandana and what is around the Black man's neck. Can we take a look at that really quickly? Nicole, can we take a look at the bandana layer? Oh no, she might not be able to hear me. Oops, she disappeared.
She's having difficulty.
Well, okay. So as we sort of continue here, the bandana on the Black man, you have several different iterations. Which items? I don't remember exactly which ones they are. You have, let me just pull it up here very quickly. I think there's a bandana, there's something else. Let me see if I don't think I have the permission to share, but you have different colors.
Okay. The bandana was mostly a reference to Africanness, right? I mean, the bandana in itself is a reference to hip hop culture, but also the different patterns you see there, they sort of make up a reference to Africanness, which is, of course, the root of the Black community in every part of the US. Sure.
Wow. And then finally, we have the tapes layer, which can also be changed, and it can have different wording on the tape layer. Correct. So you have warning, caution, danger, all of this different stuff, which is to your point exactly what you were just saying. a minute ago, in terms of
Yeah.
being cautious, having danger around the black man, and so on and so forth. Wow, that's amazing. Just really powerful work here that you've done. And
my audio, I don't know why it completely disappeared, but I'm back.
No worries, no worries. So we were just talking about, we were just like wrapping up on the black man. I think this is a really compelling work, and I think that there's like a lot here to digest. But again, it's like one of those moments where like it is complicated in terms of its message, but it is very simple and easy to understand. And like once you understand the outside context, it like flips the switch, and you just really understand like exactly the message that's being put across here. And I think that that's particularly Osinachi. I think that's prevalent in all of your work, whether that's on Async, whether that's on Nifty Gateway, or any other platform that you've minted on. I think that's one of the greatest things about you, is that you are just like, I think you were talking about like sort of growing up very empathetic and open, and I think that openness and empathy comes through immediately in your artwork, generally speaking. And that's like and that honesty and earnestness of being able to sort of say what you're saying without standing on a pedestal and screaming it or anything like that, but just very simply putting it across as it stands, which I love that. And I think it's an even more powerful message.
You can be angry in a subtle way, right? I mean, when we're all angry, we're all crazy, but you can be angry in a subtle way and still pass your message.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, and Osinachi, there have been several, in addition to some of the async work that you've done, you've also minted on several other platforms, and most recently you were a part of the Oscars, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, yeah. How do I put it? It was an urgent thing, in the sense that I just got hit up, and I was interested because of the whole thing about the project, which is to me the Oscars is more of a way of inspiring young people, especially in filmmaking and acting and so on. And this was particularly what got me interested. Also, I was interested in that because there was this charity thing around it, part of the proceeds going to charity, which is what I'm here for also. So the piece I made was to sort of inspire young people, to aspire to be great in life. It's not just about filmmaking. So you have the girl holding the Oscars, and she's looking up at the screen, and she's looking at the stars. She wants to be a star, of course. So it's about inspiring young people. That's what the piece is about.
Amazing. Do you have any plans for future artworks? Anything that's sort of in the pipeline for AsyncArt or otherwise?
Yeah, actually now I have to get to work on Choose the Man You Will Become 2. I'd like to make this a series on AsyncArt, something that sort of that is similar to CryptoPunks and all that, collecting these heads, but for something significant meaning in the space and in the society as a whole. So probably I'll do some work around Choose the Woman You Will Become, right? But that's probably, let's see how it goes. But certainly Choose the Man You Will Become. I'd like to make it something that comes out every year.
Wow, that's amazing. And I'd also wanted to ask you something that maybe we can wrap up with this. But you've been in the space for quite a long time, and obviously it's gone through a lot of changes, especially this year. what do you think about the recent kind of boom of crypto art, and also where do you see yourself within this moving forward as well?
Yeah, the boom is very much welcome. What I am cautious about is the whole thing about the money aspect, right? Which is what most of these media coverages tend to look at. It's about the money, the money, the money, the big bucks, the big bucks, the big bucks, which is what we've been seeing in the traditional art market, where people look so much at the money, they look at the money so much that they don't care about what the art is saying or about the art. So it's about what they can make and not about the art, which is very wrong. The primary thing is the art, which is what you should care about before you talk about the money. The money, in fact, is in the crypto art space, in my opinion, the money goes to the collectors, aside from the primary sale, which the artist makes, and then the collectors, most of whom are collecting as investments, are actually there waiting for the value of that artist to increase so that they can resell for a higher value. It's very clear when you go to an artist profile on any platform and you see that works that were bought before have been put for a certain buy now price. You see something like 2,000 Ether and whatever. So, which is all good, right? But then it shouldn't be primarily about the money. It should be about the art. And as for me, I'm going to be here to see the end of it, which might turn out to be the end of my life when it's time, right? But then I'm here, and I'm here for good, because crypto art is actually giving me more than a voice, right? It's become a way of life for me. I've met amazing people, amazing fellow artists, amazing collectors in the space, amazing people who think beyond what we are seeing today. So it's really great. I'm here for the innovations that are coming in.
Will you come to NFT NYC?
Hopefully, not this year. Hopefully, some other time. I hate long trips.
Yeah.
I hate long trips, but I'll try to make it to one of these big NFT events. Thank goodness for the vaccine. We can now travel, right?
Yeah.
So I hope to make it to one of these days.
Awesome.
I think we have a comment. I don't know if it may be Silver Wave, maybe a collector. I don't know.
Yay. Well, I see Who Knows NFT also. Dope project. Great discussion, guys. Thanks for holding the space. It's important. Yeah, I think everything that we've talked about today has been just amazingly important and really meaningful and so teeming with so much symbolism. It's amazing.
Yeah. Thank you guys for pulling me out of my bed. I needed it.
It was so great to chat. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Miko.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, of course. Talk soon.
All right.
Talk
Enjoy
soon.
the rest of your day.
You
You
too.
too. Okay. Bye.
Bye.